What do you think of when you hear RSL? Is it supporting veterans and commemorating those who have served? Or is it a beer with mates, a good feed and maybe a punt on the pokies? If it's the latter, veterans say that's a problem, and their solution is taking back the name. RSL New South Wales President Mick Bainbridge joins me. Mick, really appreciate your time. You want all licensed clubs to remove RSL from their names in your state. Why is that?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Ali. I think we're at a crossroads now with the completion of the Royal Commission, which their findings do discuss issues around clubs and service of alcohol and the facilitation of gambling with veterans. It's something that we'd like to address. But all things aside, it's really about us controlling the brand. There's a lot of confusion in the community about who is the RSL, and I'm certain that many people out there probably believe by going to their club they are supporting their veterans when in fact they're not. RSL New South Wales is a completely separate entity, and we go about the care and welfare of veterans, whereas RSL clubs are very much about gambling and pokies. Good place to go and have a few beers, but we're certainly different organisations.
Because I like that you've raised that, because I think most of us have long believed that RSL clubs help fund services and support for our returned servicemen and women, and are kind of shocked to hear that that's not the case. But when we also hear that these clubs made around $1 billion last year, I want to ask you, how much of that money did you see?
The princely sum of zero, Ali, so it's something that I intend to change.
Hang on, zero. They make $1 billion and none of that came back to organisations like RSL New South Wales?
No, that's correct. There's also the community club grant scheme that clubs pay into that facilitate gaming machines. Last year there was $121 million, and veteran organisations received 1.4% of that $121 million, and that was not received by RSL New South Wales.
Well, and when we all know how vulnerable our veterans are, as you just pointed out, we saw it in black and white with that Royal Commission this week. So how did we get to a point where these clubs, branded with the RSL name, rely so heavily on gambling and alcohol and give nothing back?
Look, in the 70s, there was some legislative reform that meant the organisations were somewhat joined. But at that time, the charitable, like the real RSL New South Wales, was prohibited from facilitating and running those licensed venues. So I think it was a good call by the New South Wales government. But over time, they did keep the name, regrettably. And I think it's time that clubs tell the community that they're not supporting veterans. They do have some symbiotic relationships with our sub-branches throughout the state, but I don't think that that's cause for them to trade on our good name. It's a very serious job that we've got. We've got a serious task ahead of us, especially with the findings from the Royal Commission, and I'd need the public to be very well aware that we're two separate organisations.
Look, we do also see at the same time, you've got RSL clubs shutting down around the country. A lot of them are struggling, and often for a lot of them, the pokies are the only thing that keep the doors open. But is there any wriggle room here? I mean, say the clubs remove the pokies, I mean, it's probably unlikely with the money they bring in, or more money was donated to the veterans. I guess I'm asking, would you reconsider cutting all ties?
Look, I do think that if there was a position where the community club grant scheme was looking to make sure RSL New South Wales was a benefactor, then I think that's a good outcome. However, I still have the concern that they are trading in an industry that we're not otherwise engaged in, and it's not something that I'm not trying to create a nanny state. Like I said, a few beers in moderation is good every now and again with the fellas, but it is something that I need to be aware of and cognizant of, that we do have veterans that are in trouble, and putting them in front of a poker machine when they're in need, I'd much rather them come to RSL New South Wales so we can put our arms around them and make sure that they get the help and services that they need.
Yeah, and, I think a lot of people sitting at home going hear to that, because, we love what our servicemen and women have done for our country. They deserve all the help they can get, and clearly they're not getting it at the moment. Really appreciate your time, Mick. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Ali.
And the New South Wales and Services Clubs Association told us clubs regularly provide funding to worthy ex-service organisations. However, it acknowledges there's room for improvement and will work with RSL New South Wales to better serve veterans.